Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. In today's video, I'll be showcasing many bows on Yelan and talking about Yelan's weapon options and why she is an extremely unique character when it comes to weapons. Yelan is practically drowning in weapon options, as we currently have 30 bows to choose from. By the end of this video, hopefully you'll be an expert on what bows to consider for Yelan and why. So get ready to be soaked in a deluge of bow related information as we dive into the most simple and yet complex character to put a bow on. Yelan is basically the first character in the entire game to have an entirely 100% HP scaling kit. Kokomi is close, but she actually scales off both attack and HP. And she also doesn't crit, so she's pretty wonky. Yelan, on the other hand, when it comes to the bulk of her kit, which includes her breakthrough barbs, her elemental skill, and her elemental burst, scale 100% off her HP stats. Now Yelan's normal attacks and normal charge shots do scale off her attack, but you shouldn't count on those to do any damage. What this ultimately means is that you could have 9,999,999 attack on your Yelan, and none of the important parts of her kit, her breakthrough barb, elemental skill, and elemental burst, would do increased damage. To demonstrate this point, I have a level 1 1-star hunter's bow, and we can see that her elemental skill here did 21,079 damage on crit. Her breakthrough barb did 10,790 damage on crit, and each tick of her elemental burst is doing 5,651 damage per tick on crit. Now let's add a ton of attack with Bennett's burst and the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, and as we can see, she still did 21,079 damage with her skill, 10,790 damage with her breakthrough barb, and 5,651 damage per tick with her burst. Even adding well over 1,000 attack, Yelan's damage didn't change at all. This means that base attack and attack percent on weapons do not matter in the slightest. As such, the primary focus for her weapons for Yelan should be on HP percent and other multipliers like bonus damage and crit. Of course, with the Emblem of Severed Fates, Energy Recharge also provides a small boost to the bonus damage multiplier, and my Yelan in today's video is using the Emblem of Severed Fates. The baseline for our experiments will be this level 1 hunter's bow that you've been watching, which remember is almost functionally equivalent to a level 90 refinement 5 Amos bow on Yelan. Now of course the Amos bow does do a little bit more breakthrough barb damage, but for the most important part of her kit, like her elemental burst, it provides nothing. Also, I do use some crit rate food to save time when it comes to crit fishing for the sake of displaying the damage numbers. So yeah, there's that. And finally, we'll be using my highly coveted and completely accurate slime rating system. Sorry for everyone's favorite hunter's bow, it's going to get a 1 slime out of 5 slime rating, a single slime to match its single star rarity. Our first bow to showcase is none other than an impressive 3-star bow, the Recurve Bow. The Recurve Bow is the only bow with an HP percent substat, and one of the only 2 bows that provide any HP at all, with the other bow being the passive on Yelan's signature weapon, the Aqua Simulacra. Since the Recurve Bow gains HP percent as you level, you do need to level this thing up to level 90. For today's demonstration, we'll be keeping track of 3 sources of damage: her breakthrough barb, her elemental skill, and her off-field elemental burst damage. We can see that this Recurve Bow provides Yelan with some serious improvement to her kit's damage in comparison to the hunter's bow, which will be the baseline for our chart moving forward. The Recurve Bow ended up boosting her entire kit's damage output by an impressive 24%. And it even has the added benefit of making your Yelan tankier. Overall, I think this weapon deserves a solid 2.5 slimes out of 5 slime rating, which by the way is exceptionally good for a 3-star weapon. However, the low budget options don't end here, so let's take a look at her next weapon option, which is the Stringless. The Stringless is a common weapon on every banner in Genshin Impact, and many players have this weapon as well as many refinements on it. The Stringless is a great example of a functional level 1 weapon on Yelan. Because the Stringless's substat, Elemental Mastery, isn't too important for Yelan's damage output, all we really care about is the passive that it provides, which at Refinement 1 provides an impressive 24% skill and burst damage. And at Refinement 5 it provides a massive 48% skill and burst damage. Leveling the Stringless does not improve improve its passive, as only refinements improve its passive. And because Yelan's normal physical bow shots do negligible damage, the attack gained from leveling the stringless is highly unnecessary. As such, my Yelan in this example is using a level 1 stringless, and as we can see, her skill and burst damage have gone up significantly in comparison to the hunter's bow, with the refinement 1 stringless doing 13% more damage, and with the refinement 5 stringless doing about 26% more burst damage. Now if you want more elemental mastery for the occasional vape or whatever electrocharged, then it's completely fine to level the stringless. Overall, I think the stringless deserves a solid 3 slime out of 5 slime rating for the higher potential occasional vapes if you choose to level it, or for saving a ton of resources if you don't choose to level it. The next weapon is the Moon's Moon. The Moon's Moon adds bonus elemental burst damage based on the total energy cost of your team. This current team is 270 energy, and as we can see, the burst damage is great, doing 18% more at Refinement 1 and 36% more at Refinement 5, both at level 1 by the way. As unlike the Stringless, which has EM as a substat, this thing has attack percent as a substat, which is even more useless to level up for Yelan. However, this bow doesn't improve her elemental skill damage or her breakthrough barbs, but since it has the highest elemental burst damage up to this point, I still think it deserves a solid 3 slime out of 5 slime rating. However, do keep in mind this weapon is not a common 4-star weapon, and you can currently only obtain it by pulling on weapon banners that feature this. So unless you've got a few refinements on this thing, it's likely your stringless will have more refinements and thus still be the better option. Another obvious choice is the Alley Hunter, so I'm just going to get straight to the point. You also only need this thing at level 1, just like the Moon's Moon and just like the Stringless. The Alley Hunter also has the added benefit of boosting all the important sources of damage from Yelan, which are in order of importance: her Elemental Burst, then her Elemental Skill, and then her Breakthrough Barb. At Refinement 1, Yelan's Elemental Burst is doing 11% more damage, and at Refinement 5 is doing 22% more damage. However, this thing is conditional, and I'm sorry, but I like keeping my Yelan on field, especially in the overworld. I didn't pay tens of thousands of Primo Gems to see her once every 3 seconds every rotation just to maintain this silly weapon's buff. When this thing's buff is down, it's as useless as the Hunter's Bow, and besides, even at Refinement 5 with its full buff up, it performs worse than the Recurve Bow for her Elemental Burst, which provided an unconditional 24% increase to her Elemental Burst damage. Because of all this, I'm only giving this thing a 2 slime out of 5 slime rating, mostly because it punishes you for actually spending time on field with Yelan, which is a lot of fun. Still, this is a very usable weapon if you don't have the above options, or if you don't want to level a 3-star bow to level 90, which is not necessarily recommended. Next we have the Favonius and Elegy for the end. The reality is these weapons will only provide a tiny increase to Yelan's elemental burst damage if you're using the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fates. However, obviously you would be using these for their support capabilities and not for their damage output. Remember, Elegy's attack buff is practically useless on Yelan, and the elemental mastery buff is questionable at best. However, the Elegy buff is to buff your team, and a character like Hu Tao will really enjoy the Elegy's attack and elemental mastery buff, as well as Yelan's passive 2's bonus damage buff. I'm giving the Favonius a 3 slime out of 5 slime rating for its support capabilities, and the Elegy for the end a 4 slime out of 5 slime rating for being a great option for buffing a character like Hu Tao. For these energy recharge weapons, I do recommend leveling these to get more energy recharge. Hey, so I gathered the rest of the clips on the media server before I realized the Fading Twilight would be out immediately on the live version. So I went to the live version and grabbed this weapon as well as this clip really quick. My Fading Twilight is only at Refinement 4 because we can't get the last refinement yet as of shooting this clip. Anyway, on average, this Fading Twilight at Refinement 4 adds 14% additional damage to Yelan's Elemental Burst. And as for this specific clip, the bow actually has its 2nd and 3rd buffs up throughout it. So basically no time was actually spent on the lowest first buff. Now I haven't tested this in Abyss yet, but if Yelan starts with the first buff every time, then at least for the first rotation, when you use her, it will be very consistent to have the 2nd and 3rd buffs up on the Fading Twilight, which is very nice, and actually makes this bow a little bit better than it otherwise would be. Anyway, the ER, it adds is nice as well, but the amount of damage it adds is notably lower than, for example, a Refinement 5 Stringless or a Refinement 5 Moon's Moon. However, due to the added energy recharge and the fact that Yelan really likes to have some energy recharge, I'm still going to give this thing a 3 slime out of 5 slime rating. It's definitely one of the better 4-star weapon options for Yelan, and it being completely free to play at Refinement 5 to boot is very, very nice. And almost the last, but certainly not the least, at least in terms of my in-game showcases, we have the Aqua Simulacra. This thing is the perfect disgusting stat stick for Yelan. Obviously, by now if you couldn't tell, Yelan doesn't care about the base attack of the weapon. The Aqua Simulacra has a low base attack for a 5-star and an extremely high secondary stat, which happens to be the highly coveted crit damage. Oh, and I should clarify that it provides a massive 88.2% crit damage. The passive on this thing is also obviously designed for Yelan, as it happens to provide 16% HP and 20% bonus damage for her. Unsurprisingly, this thing is blowing everything else out of the water, and now Yelan's burst is doing 55% more damage than the Hunter's Bow, and Yelan's elemental skill and breakthrough barbs are doing 58% more damage. To jog your memory, the second highest performer for Yelan's elemental burst was a Refinement 5 Moon's Moon, which is only at 36% more damage, and that thing didn't even boost her elemental skill or breakthrough barb damage. Anyway, I think it's to no one's surprise that this thing is amazing for Yelan. Now do keep in mind that you want to level this thing up to level 90 because that boosts its crit damage by a lot. Overall, an easy 5 slime out of 5 slime rating. So now with all the in-game showcases out of the way, allow me to present you with the full weapon chart for Yelan, as well as some of my commentary on the remaining options. Again, these are damage maximized calculations. I wrote an algorithm that shuffles around substats and main stats until it finds the optimal combination of stats in order to maximize damage. The first thing to note is that our in-game showcases are within a couple percentage points of the damage maximized math. Our in-game showcase has demonstrated the reliability of this theory crafted math. Looking at this full chart, we can see some interesting options. With still the Hunter's Bow as the baseline, there are multiple 3-star bows that are uniquely viable on Yelan. For one, if you don't want to spend any resources, you can give her a Refinement 5 Raven's Bow at level 1. However, I've only given the Raven's Bow a 1.5 slime rating out of 5 slime due to it only providing a small, and also it's a bit situational, damage buff to Yelan. However, again, if you don't want to level anything up in the interim as you save up for perhaps the Aqua Simulacra or whatever, this is the best 3-star bow at level 1. As for the other 3-star bows, the Slingshot and the Recurve Bow are the two most recommended 3-star options to level. The Recurve Bow is nice as it provides the largest possible numbers and even makes Yelan a bit beefier. However, it lacks the crit rate that the Slingshot provides. The Slingshot also boosts breakthrough barb damage, assuming you're very close to your target. Both of these bows deserve a very respectable 2.5 slimes out of 5 slime rating, which is very good for 3-star weapons. This is unprecedented for a character to have so many good 3-star options. Next, let's take a look at all the 4-star bows. The Sacrificial Bow, Favonius Warbow, and Fading Twilight all provide some energy recharge, which is nice. The Sacrificial and Favonius both provide more overall energy recharge thanks to their passives, while the Fading Twilight provides the least energy recharge overall but instead provides some bonus damage. Overall, this is kind of a pick your preference type of situation, and I think they all deserve 3 slime rating. Do keep in mind that even at its best though, the Fading Twilight still does less average damage than either the Slingshot or Recurve Bow, but a few percentage points of less damage is probably worth it for the energy recharge. Next, let's talk about the damage-focused 4-star bows. The Stringless, Moon's Moon, and Alley Hunter, they're all okay with the Moon's Moon at equal refinements to the others, providing the most burst damage, which in my opinion is the most important part of her kit. However, you're likely to have the Stringless at higher refinements than the Moon's Moon. Either way, it's hard to go wrong with either of these weapons if bigger numbers is your top priority. At Refinement 5 and still level 1 by the way, both these options generally outperform the top 3-star options, which are the Recurve and Slingshot. However, again, you don't have to level the Alley Hunter or the Moon's Moon or the Stringless, so you can save a lot of resources and perhaps gamble on the Aqua Simulacra before Yelan's banner goes away. Now let's finally talk about the 5-star weapon options for Yelan. The Aqua Simulacra is hands down the best option for her damage. It's a no-nonsense stat stick for her. The Elegy for an End is an interesting option, but I will say that Yelan's personal damage is so high that it's arguably not worth it to sacrifice a bunch of her damage to boost her teammates' damage. However, further boosting a character like Hu Tao's charge attacks is insanely good, and the Elegy providing ER on top of all of that is why I've still given it a 4 slime rating, despite it being a poor option for Yelan's personal damage. Another interesting 5-star weapon option is the Polar Star, and it does provide some bonus skill and burst damage, and it provides a lot of crit rate. So it's overall, I would say, the second best bow for her burst damage. However, the Aqua Simulacra is just so much better, and as such, the Polar Star just gets a 3.5 slime rating out of 5 slimes. And finally, we have both the Thundering Pulse and Skyward Harp, which both just provide a bunch of crit stats. Nothing fancy. What's notable about these is that they actually barely outperform the 3-star options, and in fact lose to the Slingshot when it comes to breakthrough barb damage. Still, they are great crit stat sticks, and the Skyward Harp gets a 3-star rating because you can actually refine it to improve Yelan's damage after a while, whereas the Thundering Pulse, it gets a 2.5 slime rating as refinements on it don't do anything, and yeah. As you may have noticed, the Amos bow is actually completely missing, and that's because it doesn't boost her burst or skill damage at all. As such, 3-star options like the Slingshot and Recurve Bow are in my opinion way better on Yelan than even a Refinement 5 5-star Amos bow. So there you go, let me know if I missed anything in this weapon guide video, and if by now you understand how the weapons work on Yelan, and also let me know what bow you plan to use on Yelan, or if you disagree with anything I've said here. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos, ranging from C0 showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button, as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.